Phoenix. Even the name feels warm in your mouth, soft vowels like a breath of desert air. Travelers call it the Valley of the Sun, and if you've ever stepped off a plane in January and felt that gentle winter heat on your skin, you understand why. The city is wrapped in a kind of shimmering promise. Mountains ring the horizon like sleeping giants. The sky is a canvas of nearly perpetual blue. By day, palm trees sway against glass towers. By night, the skyline flickers with lights that mimic a field of stars. Every year, millions of visitors come chasing that glow. Retirees flee icy winters for the dry warmth. Young tech workers arrive to join startups in sprawling corporate campuses. Families drive in from across the country, drawn by the myth of affordable homes and endless sunshine. Walk through downtown and you can almost feel that optimism in the air. New restaurants buzzing with conversation, electric scooters zipping past new condos, construction cranes sketching bold angles against the sunset. From a distance, Phoenix looks like a success story, a testament to modern growth and American possibility. But every bright desert day casts a shadow, and if you wander a few blocks past the brunch spots and boutique hotels, the atmosphere shifts. First glimpses of the hidden Phoenix. The change is subtle at first. The sidewalk widens into a silence that feels heavier than the heat. Storefronts give way to empty lots. The chatter of cafe patios fades into the distant hiss of traffic on I-10. Then you see them, tents pitched close to the curb, patched together with mismatched tarps and scraps of cardboard, a shopping cart stacked with blankets, a figure curled in a sliver of shade, a bottle of water clutched like a lifeline. Here, in the heart of a city marketed as an oasis of opportunity, thousands of men, women, and children are simply trying to stay alive. Some rest under makeshift awnings of sun-bleached cloth. Others sit quietly on the curb, eyes half closed against the glare. The heat radiates off the pavement in visible waves, warping the air itself. I meet Raymond near the corner of 12th Avenue and Madison Street, where the asphalt shimmers like a stovetop. He's 52, rail-thin, his skin cracked and darkened by years of sun. People think we choose this, he tells me, his voice hoarse from dehydration. But rent went up, job went away, then my car broke down and that was it. One bad month and you're out here. He gestures toward a row of tents. It's like quicksand, you fight, but it pulls you deeper. Raymond's story is heartbreakingly common. The Valley of the Sun, celebrated for economic growth and a booming real estate market, has become the stage for one of America's most brutal homeless crises. In summer, the thermometer routinely pushes past 110 degrees F, 43 degrees C. Asphalt softens, metal sears bare skin. For people sleeping outdoors, the desert doesn't merely scorch, it kills. Every year, dozens lose their lives to dehydration, heat stroke, or untreated illnesses that spiral in the relentless sun. The two faces of Phoenix. Locals sometimes speak of the two Phoenixes. One face is luxury and light, high-rise condos, resort pools, endless brunches under cloudless skies. The other is a quiet emergency unfolding on sidewalks and in empty lots, a humanitarian disaster that too many would rather not see. A decade ago, the unhoused population was mostly confined to certain corners of downtown. Today it stretches across the city, from freeway underpasses to suburban shopping centers. Outreach workers say the numbers are rising faster here than almost anywhere else in the United States. The epicenter is a downtown district everyone simply calls the Zone. Imagine city blocks not lined with storefronts but with tents and lean-tos, a shadow city stitched from tarps and scavenged wood. Thousands of people live here, forming a fragile neighborhood inside Phoenix's glittering heart. From above, it resembles a patchwork quilt. Up close, it feels like a raw wound. Behind every tent is a personal history interrupted. A grandmother priced out after her landlord sold the building. A young veteran battling post-traumatic stress and addiction. A single mother who lost a job and then the car she'd been sleeping in. Maria, a former home health aide, tells me she once rented a modest one-bedroom apartment for $750 a month. Now that same place is $1,500, she says, shaking her head. When her hours were cut during the pandemic, she fell behind on rent. Eviction followed. I kept thinking I'd catch up, she says softly, but the prices just kept climbing. One day I was in my apartment, the next I was in my car, and when the car broke down, I came here. Stories like Maria's explain why Phoenix's homelessness problem isn't just visible, it's accelerating. The slow-burning cause is, this crisis didn't erupt overnight. It is the product of forces that have been gathering for years, each one tightening the vice. Housing and rent explosion. Over the last decade, Phoenix became one of the nation's hottest real estate markets. New residents flooded in from pricier states. Investors bought properties in bulk, flipping houses or turning apartments into lucrative short-term rentals. A one-bedroom that rented for $810 years ago now easily commands $1,600 or more. Wages, meanwhile, crawled upward at a fraction of that pace. Working families found themselves priced out of homes they'd lived in for years. Shelter shortage. Emergency shelters exist but far too few. Beds fill within hours each night. Strict rules, curfews, and fears of theft make some unhoused people choose a tent over the crowded dormitories. For them, the sidewalk feels safer than a tightly packed room where belongings might vanish. The desert heat. Then there is the desert itself. Phoenix is hot even by Arizona standards. Daytime highs of 110 degrees F, 43 degrees C are common in summer. Nights often stay above 90 degrees F. Sidewalks can blister bare skin in seconds. Without shade and constant water, heatstroke can strike quickly and kill silently. Health and addiction. Many unhoused residents carry invisible burdens, trauma, depression, chronic illness. Fentanyl and methamphetamine are everywhere, offering brief escape and long-term devastation. Addiction makes holding a job or maintaining an apartment even harder, creating a vicious cycle that traps people like Raymond and Maria. Policy whiplash. City leaders face pressure from every side. Residents demand clean streets, courts order the zone to be cleared, and yet affordable housing construction lags far behind demand. Sweeps scatter encampments but do little to solve the core issue. There simply aren't enough safe, affordable places to live. Combine these factors and you get what outreach workers call the perfect storm, a storm that continues to grow. Life inside the zone. Spend a day in the zone and the scale of the problem becomes undeniable. In the morning, outreach vans hand out bottled water, each one snatched quickly in the already warming air. By noon, the smell of hot asphalt mixes with smoke from small cooking fires. Some tents are neatly organized, with folding chairs out front and potted plants offering a stubborn hint of home. Others are little more than heaps of tarp and cardboard, barely enough to shield from the searing sun. Children live here too, though you rarely see them. Families do their best to stay invisible, fearing that authorities might separate them. Volunteers describe meeting teenagers who still attend school while sleeping in cars or shelters. At night, the heat finally relents, but the tension rises. Sirens echo from nearby streets. The glow of downtown's high-rises reflects off the patchwork of tents, a cruel reminder of the luxury so close yet impossibly far. Despite the hardship, there is community. People share food and watch one another's belongings. Maria introduces me to her neighbor, a soft-spoken man named Eli who fixes bicycles in exchange for bottled water or small meals. "We take care of each other," he says simply. "No one else will." City efforts and their limits. Phoenix officials have not stood idle. They've opened large emergency shelters and added thousands of temporary beds. They've embraced a housing-first strategy that provides rental vouchers before requiring treatment or employment, on the theory that stable housing is the foundation for recovery. Mobile medical teams now roam the streets offering free checkups and basic care. But the need dwarfs the response. Construction of low-cost units moves slowly. Every new batch of shelter beds fills almost instantly. Legal challenges over the zone lead to periodic sweeps which merely push people to other blocks or neighboring cities. The city's geography complicates everything. Phoenix sprawls for miles. Public transportation is limited, so reaching a clinic or food bank can mean walking for hours under a punishing sun. And then there is the human barrier, stigma. Many residents view homelessness as a blemish to be scrubbed away. "People yell at us to get a job," Maria says. "They don't understand we had jobs, we lost them, or the rent went crazy. It could happen to anyone." A crisis with a human face. As the sun sinks, the city's skyscrapers glow gold against the evening sky. From a rooftop bar, Phoenix still looks like the desert dream so many newcomers imagine. But for the thousands settling into tents for another night, the dream is out of reach. This is the hidden Phoenix, a city where prosperity and poverty exist side by side, separated only by a few blocks and a world of fortune. Night settles slowly over the desert. Even after sunset, the air holds the day's heat like a stone fresh from the fire. In downtown Phoenix, the glass towers glow with office lights, while just a few blocks away, the zone hums with quieter sounds, low conversations, the shuffle of feet, the clink of a bicycle chain being tightened. Here, survival is a night-to-night calculation. But there is also something else: persistence. The helpers in the heat. If you arrive early in the morning, before the sun climbs high enough to bleach the streets, you'll see a different kind of bustle. Volunteers from churches and neighborhood groups unload crates of bottled water. A retired nurse kneels to wrap a man's blistered foot. A young woman wearing a broad straw hat passes out clean socks, gold in a place where feet carry people miles each day. One of the largest forces on the ground is Central Arizona Shelter Services, CASS. Their campus a few blocks from the zone offers nearly 500 beds a night and provides more than a place to sleep. Inside, social workers help with job training, legal aid, and counseling. Housing is the first step, but it's not the last, explains Monica, a program coordinator who has worked there for 12 years. People need medical care, IDs, a path back to employment. We try to give them tools to rebuild. On a nearby corner, Circle the City, a nonprofit medical team parks a mobile clinic. Their doctors and nurses treat everything from heat exhaustion to chronic illnesses that have gone untreated for years. Dr. Jaime Herrera, sweat beading on her forehead even at 8 a.m., says the challenge is relentless. You can cool someone down, dress their wounds, give medication. But if they return to the street the next day in 110-degree heat, the cycle continues. We do what we can to keep them alive until something more permanent is possible. These acts of care, water bottles, clean socks, a listening ear, may seem small, but for people like Maria, whom we met in part 1, they are lifelines. Some days you feel invisible, she tells me. Then someone hands you a cold drink and calls you by your name. For a moment, you're human again. Faith, food, and first names. Across the city, faith communities are stepping forward. At St. Mary's Basilica, parishioners gather every Wednesday night to prepare hundreds of hot meals. Down the road, a synagogue organizes weekly water brigades, driving to known encampments to distribute gallon jugs and electrolyte packets. These are our neighbors, says Rabbi Levin, loading crates into a van. The Torah tells us to care for the stranger, but the truth is these folks aren't strangers, they are PHONEIX. The volunteers insist on learning names. It's a small act of dignity, a way to counter the constant erasure of life on the street. One teenager handing out peanut butter sandwiches explains it simply: when you say someone's name, you're telling them they matter. Government action and its limits. City and state leaders have not ignored the crisis. Over the past 5 years, PHONEIX has added thousands of emergency shelter beds and adopted a housing-first approach, providing stable housing before requiring sobriety or employment. Federal funds flow into rental voucher programs that help families on the brink stay in their homes. Yet the gap between effort and need remains wide. Affordable housing construction lags far behind demand. Developers face zoning hurdles, rising costs, and local opposition from residents worried about property values. The result? Every new low-income complex fills instantly, with waiting lists stretching for months or years. Enforcement policies often backfire. After a series of lawsuits, judges ordered the city to clear parts of the zone, citing public health concerns. Crews dismantled tents offering temporary shelter placements, but many residents, fearful of losing their few possessions or unable to comply with strict shelter rules, moved to other streets or neighboring suburbs. It's like squeezing a balloon, one outreach worker says. You push here, it pops out there. Officials acknowledge the dilemma. We can't arrest our way out of homelessness, says City Council member Laura Pastor. But we also can't ignore the sanitation and safety issues residents raise. We need housing, mental health treatment, and jobs, all three together. Tiny homes and big ideas. Despite the obstacles, innovation is sprouting across the desert. A few miles west of downtown, a new development of tiny homes gleams under the sun, rows of compact, energy-efficient houses built specifically for people transitioning out of homelessness. Each unit has air conditioning, a small kitchen, and a front porch shaded by a metal awning. This isn't just shelter, says project director Anthony Ruiz as he unlocks a door to a spotless 300-square-foot home. It's dignity. It's a mailing address so someone can apply for work, a private space to rest and heal. Residents pay rent on a sliding scale, often no more than a few $100s, and receive job training support. Early results are promising. Most participants move on to permanent housing within a year. Private companies are joining in too. Several large employers have launched apprenticeship programs targeting unhoused individuals, pairing stable wages with short-term housing stipends. It's self-interest and civic duty, admits one tech company executive. A city with this level of homelessness struggles to attract talent. We need to be part of the solution. The people behind the numbers. Statistics can numb, but faces do not. Raymond, the man who compared homelessness to quicksand, now spends afternoons volunteering at a downtown cooling center. I tell people drink water even if you're not thirsty, he says, handing out chilled bottles. After months on the street, he secured a voucher and a room in a shared apartment. He still carries the lessons of survival, offering quiet counsel to those where he once stood. Maria, the former home health aide, recently entered a program that pairs mothers with subsidized apartments and childcare. She shows me a photo of her new one-bedroom unit, a small kitchen with sun through the blinds, a couch donated by a church group. "It's not fancy," she says, "but it's ours. My daughter finally has her own bed." These individual victories matter because they remind us that homelessness is not an abstract problem. It is a collection of human lives, each capable of change when given a chance. Barriers that persist. Still, the challenges remain enormous. The heat. Phoenix summers are becoming hotter and longer due to climate change. Even brief power outages can be fatal. Cooling centers help, but many people cannot reach them, and nights that remain above 90 degrees F provide little relief. Urban sprawl. The city stretches more than 500 square miles. Shelters, clinics, and food banks are scattered, often far from encampments. Public transit is sparse, leaving many to walk miles in dangerous heat. Social stigma. Perhaps the hardest barrier is perception. Some residents still frame homelessness as a moral failing rather than a systemic breakdown. People drive by and roll up their windows, says outreach worker Kimberly Tran. They don't see neighbors, they see a nuisance. Changing that mindset, advocates say, is as crucial as funding more housing. A mirror to America. Phoenix's crisis reflects a larger national question. The United States is often celebrated for its prosperity and technological prowess. But what does that prosperity mean if tens of thousands of citizens sleep outside each night? Economists point to housing shortages in cities from Los Angeles to Miami. Mental health services remain underfunded nationwide. Wages for low-income workers have barely budged in decades while rents soar. Phoenix is not an outlier, it is a warning. Phoenix shows how quickly a city can tip from growth to crisis, says Dr. Matthew Desmond, Pulitzer Prize-winning author of Evicted, during a recent lecture in Tempe. If we can solve it here in a place with such extreme heat and rapid expansion, we can create a model for the country. Glimpses of tomorrow. There are signs that lessons are being learned. The state recently passed a package of bills streamlining permits for affordable housing, cutting red tape that slowed construction. New funding for mental health care includes mobile crisis teams trained to respond without police presence, aiming to de-escalate situations and connect people to treatment rather than jail. Community coalitions are experimenting with Housing Plus Health campuses, integrated spaces where residents can receive medical care, counseling, and job training under one roof. Early pilot programs show significant reductions in emergency room visits and repeat homelessness. And every summer, more cooling centers open earlier in the season, staffed by volunteers who understand that a jug of water can be the difference between life and death. The human equation. Yet even the best policies will falter without compassion. On a blistering July afternoon, I walked past a small encampment near a freeway ramp. A man in a baseball cap raises his hand in greeting. His name is Isaiah. He offers me a folding chair in the thin shade of a mesquite tree and talks about his dream of becoming a mechanic again. "I just need a start," he says, wiping sweat from his brow. "A place to keep my tools, a shower before an interview, that's all." His words linger long after I leave. They capture the essential truth: people rarely need miracles, they need a door cracked open. Toward a shared future. As the sun sets behind the jagged silhouette of the Phoenix Mountains, the city glows gold and rose. From a rooftop bar you can watch the light slide across the valley, bathing everything, glass towers and tent camps alike, in the same soft hues. That view raises an unavoidable question: what kind of city do we want to be? A place where prosperity means a lucky few thrive while others bake on the sidewalk. Or a community that measures success by how it treats its most vulnerable. The answer isn't written yet. It will be decided in council meetings and construction budgets, in the generosity of churches and the advocacy of neighbors, in the quiet choices of citizens who decide to see rather than look away. Phoenix's story is more than a local crisis. It is a mirror held up to America. The Valley of the Sun reveals both the fragility and the resilience of human life, how quickly stability can vanish, and how fiercely people can fight to regain it. There is darkness here, yes, But there is also undeniable light, the volunteer handing a bottle of water to a stranger, the nurse dressing a wound in the heat, the mother tucking her child into a donated bed in a tiny new home. The desert sun that scorches by day can also warm by evening. In that glow lies the possibility of a city where everyone housed or unhoused can feel the light.